why jewelry matters. Jewelry has a history, and what is the history of jewelry? Who used jewelry? Why they use it for? And what was the jewelry meaning was? I read a lot of things, and I'm been jeweler for 35 years almost now. I've been doing it since I was very young. When I was 14 years old, I started doing jewelry. Before that, I used to go summers and work and learn jewelry. My dad was a jeweler. My grandfather was a jeweler. My brothers were jeweler. My dad's brother was a jeweler. We have a lineage of jewelry history coming up. So there's a lot of things I've heard over the years from my dad, from my brothers, and people around me that I work with. I did a lot of everything, so like in order of manufacturing, designing, retail, everything, wholesale, everything that has to do with jewelry I've done. So I've seen a lot of the good and other sides of the jewelry. So queens, kings, wealthy people, artists, everybody wore jewelry. What is jewelry? Jewelry is something where you can put value on, and you can put time into it, and develop designs, ideas, and that's why jewelry designs changes all the time. The one designer comes, everyone wants to wear that, and then it changes the design, the era. So queens wore it and made it look good. It was very different. So when it comes to the history of jewelry, like other cultures were wearing this, we call it jewelry, but like when you look at it, you see the difference between cultures to cultures, people, eras, times. It's ongoing wave of ideas coming in to making jewelry. Certain times certain things are more fashionable, more valuable, and like people will find some other ideas that start changing the patterns and the shapes and the colors of the gold, everything. So also in the history, old times, like 100,000 years ago, those people back then also wore jewelry too. They didn't understand metals and gold and diamonds, but they did wear it in form of feathers, in form of bones and pycons and those kind of things. They made themselves look nice and beautiful, and they used a lot of paints. They didn't have color stones, which we have today. We use color stones to bring colors in and everything like that. So back in those days was different. Somewhere in 1300 or so in Europe, people learned how to cut diamonds and bring the brilliance out. And when they learn how to do that, they start making all kinds of jewelry, and then all kinds of ideas start coming in, make the jewelry beautiful, interesting, shinier, brighter. So a lot of people, whether they were rich or poor, they were able to make their own jewelry and wore it and make themselves feel good and better, and feel good about doing what they were doing back then. Today is a little bit different. Today we have all the different colors of gold, and we have all the different shapes of stones and color stones and ideas, and we have designers in the market. We have manufacturings where they manufacture the same thing over and over, and the history is a little bit different. When you go forward, look back, you're gonna see this is also the time, the era that we are in. What's available to us, all the machineries, all the equipments that we have that they didn't have back in the day. So today a lot of machine makes jewelry also. Back in the day it was all handmade. It was all, I remember when I started first doing jewelry, I used to use torch with, like, you have to push with your foot to push air into the fire, and the fire source was petroleum. I used benzene to put inside my little can, and then push air into it, and then the air pushed the fumes out, and those fumes was burning, and that was my torch. I was able to solder things and everything. So like, this was in 1984, 85, and the time has changed a lot. Technology came in, so history of jewelry, it's pretty deep. Like when I look at my dad and his times, they didn't even have those food things. They used to put little tubing in their mouth. They used to blow on it like a straw, and then blow air into that system where they could solder and use a torch like that. And that was then. So like when you go all the way back, like there's so much happened in the jewelry history. So jewelry has a very rich history because everyone loved to wear jewelry, and they love to make their own ideas, because like we know that people love to make their own handmade jewelry. So people went to their jeweler and they asked for their ideas to be made, and they have stones they purchased or they had inherited or something they wanted to make something out of. And we all know that people love to make personal jewelry because like it's so important to have your touch on it. And throughout the history, this was true too. You know, that's why there was a lot of jewelry that kings and queens, they own these pieces. And today we have museums that you can actually go and observe and look those beautiful pieces that was made back in the day. Sometimes I go and look at it, I'm like, how did they do this? They didn't have all the tools, but there was skill set enough that they were able to make that kind of beautiful, intricate pieces. So history is very rich when it comes to jewelry. It's what is the word? It's stunning just to see how amazing all those beautiful pieces were, how they were made. And if you guys haven't had spent time doing that kind of research, when you have time, you should, and learn a little bit about the history of jewelry if you are a fan of jewelry, because that would tell you a lot. So if you're interested with jewelry history and what it was, how it was, what they made back then, leave a comment down below. I would be available for you guys to tell you more about it, and I would probably make a video or a blog about it and explain even deeper where the history comes from. Alright, so I'm gonna be moving on to past and present jewelry, which is, I touched on it just a little bit in the history, but I want to elaborate more deeper level on past and present. Past was very different. Past was, they didn't have all the equipments. Mostly what jewelers did was they made jewelry equipment, tools by their own hands. They found something, they grind it down to little points or flat pieces. And if you look at the jewelry tools back in the day, everything was done handmade. So the jeweler had to know, the good jewelers had to learn and know how to build tools and also make jewelry with those tools. So this is what was happening back in the day. Also, in the past, jewelers were called like dentists, right? If you had a toothache or anything, one person knew how to use small tools and do little work was jewelers. Back in the day, people used to go to jeweler to get their teeth pulled out. This is real. I've heard from my dad, from like all his friends, they were all talking about this, they were all saying about this. Actually, this is what happened. People went to jeweler to get their teeth pulled out. And jeweler was a person where he knew how to use those little tiny tools, pliers, all kinds of like little fires, everything. So they were doing more than what their skills was built for, what their intention was. And also jewelers were the people were the wealthiest in the community. So back in the day, it was very, very known and famous for families to wanted to marry their daughters to a jeweler, because jeweler always made really, really good money and was able to provide better to their families that they were making and building. So that was one other thing. Past, this is what used to be pretty popular. Present jewelry is not required to have like a hands-on, like a handyman type of personality. A lot of in present time, a lot of jewelers, a lot of people that they work with computer designing, they're not even jewelers. They just learn how to use that program and then they make jewelry. Okay, so back in the day, when I was learning, my first mentor, my boss, back then when he was teaching me jewelry, we used to make this one joke, which he used to say, in the future, there's going to be a machine, like a carrot juicer machine. You're going to put the gold one side, the other side, the gold, and the ring's going to appear. And we used to laugh at that. We used to think that was a really funny joke. This is 1984. Today, it's very true. That's what's happening today. And I always remember this joke, and I always blows me away. So present, that people are using computers to CAD designing to make jewelry designs and print them out so they can do casting with it. One thing I wanted to say is one of my really good friend that he was like really good jeweler, he got into it also. So what I want to say, like, if you want to make something with CAD design, if you can find a previous jeweler that got into that kind of computer designing, they have the eye for it, they have the skill for it to know how to make that jewelry look so much better, like that it's gonna work, it's gonna not be bulky, and like it's gonna look beautiful. He does make really beautiful pieces. So I don't want to undermine that at all. I just wanted to put it out there for you guys to know that even if you're not jeweler, you can actually make beautiful jewelry pieces with that software. Next is a different perspective on jewelry. I want to elaborate a little bit on perspective. I want to explain what perspective is. Like, jewelry could be very broad, wide, and could be translated into different forms. So when it comes to perspective, it's an eye of a holder. Everyone sees it differently. Some people look at it like it's beautiful big rock, like a diamond, or others they look at it like it's a gold and silver. Others look at it like spiritual communities. They all look at it like it's crystals and organic stones. Some people look at it like it's a color stones and just regular small bands and things. So I work with all kinds of things here. I develop all kinds of ideas, and I have tapped into a lot of the meaning of it and what it means, and how you have to make it that it makes sense, where people gonna like, and it's not going to be just one time, and it's like it has very deep meaning when it comes to designing something. So perspective is like, some people, they use jewelry like to express themselves, right? Like they purchase big stones and they wear it, and when you see them, you immediately know that these people can afford this expensive piece. Others, they wear just to see, like, to have something beautiful on them, and then show like they are more simpler people. And other thing is, like, people are getting married and they use jewelry to, like, a symbol that you have it on your finger. And what kind of symbol do you want to have? Do you want to have diamonds in it, just the gold and beautiful pieces, where you're letting people out there know when they wear that ring, for them it represents token of love, and that is something, it brings value in to the golden design and ideas. So I get a lot of requests doing that kind of thing. So I do understand my thing is like I ask all the right questions and take them deep into their mind, what it means, what is jewelry for them. I give them all the options and everything, like if it's thick and thin, long and short. When it comes to age groups, perspective changes. Like the younger crowd and middle and older people, they have their perspective changes and their taste changes. Also, the jewelry that they care about, they wear, they purchase is also changes. I've had a retail store where my clients came in, it was very different. Like I didn't make the same jewelry that I made for 30 years old to 60-year-old. It was very different. So I've had all kinds of experiences learning from my clients to eventually become who I became. Like I to ask the right questions, to go really deep into what the reasoning is, because they're gonna be wearing those pieces and that's gonna represent them. So my job is to find out who they are and extract that from them, their ideas, and put it on piece of metal, which is gold, and the diamonds or color stones, whatever we are working towards to finish. So jewelry means different things to different people. So what I do today, from like learning from people that I work with, my clients and customers, I implement all those ideas into making the jewelry that I make today, which is like I make all kinds of jewelry, which like fine jewelry, also handmade, and also spiritual jewelry that has all the rough and like organic look to it. So everything that I make today, it comes from a lot of experience that I've seen, I've heard, and I experienced, and I've made for people. And so that's what you're gonna find when you look into what I've been producing and making today. And those things gonna be on my website. So jewelry is very different for everyone. It's not the same. So when you talk about jewelry, it's never gonna be on the same level if you don't understand their taste into what they like to wear. When we start talking about making jewelry, when the client comes in, we have to sit down together. I will be asking a bunch of questions, trying to tap into the idea that they have, that they want to create. And so I ask all the questions that matters, and then I put the idea together. And once I have the idea, I will try to ask questions about how tall, how short, how long it's going to be, what they like it to end up being. Do they like it round stone or oval stone or marquee, or what is what are the different ways of doing that particular piece that they like to have? If it was a pendant or a ring or a center stone ring, what is it? I give them all the options that it's necessary for me to understand what they like, and then I'll figure out what they want, and I'll make the drawing for it. And then once they see the drawing and they give me the kind of the okay, and that means for me to continue or to change my way. So once I have the drawing, I sit down and start carving wax, or use the CAD design, which I have a really good guy that I work with, and I take him through the steps and explain to him what he needs to know, what he needs to do. So I'll come up with the design, and maybe a lot of times what I do is, like, because I'm like so good at doing by hand carving, so I'll have the client sit next to me and I'll start carving. I'll start showing them the steps, like, do you want me to go longer, shorter, taller, thicker, thinner, round band, square band, like what are the there are a few things you could do when you're carving the band. There are a few things you can do when you're doing the prong or bezel set, or there are always there are different options of how it's going to turn out to be. That is something that what the client wants it to look like, and it will end up looking like that. That's pretty much the step where from the idea, from the talk, from the idea to actual making the piece. And then we'll send it once I do the detail work afterwards, when the clients leave, usually, because that took probably a lot of time already. That usually goes to the caster, comes back the gold or platinum or whatever silver we are working with. We'll take that, we'll clean it up, we'll make it all sharp and beautiful. If I have to show them again, I ask them to come in again. So we go through all these steps, and afterwards, depending if we have pavé work or bezel, whatever, we'll get the diamonds for it, exact sizes. So I'll go talk to my diamond setters, ask them how they're gonna set, what they're gonna do, explain to them, walk them through the steps, and we'll get the job done over there, and then it comes back to me. And then once it comes back to me, I'll look at it and see if everything's correct. Once I give the okay, pretty much, or whoever is looking for this piece gives the okay. In this case, I do. And so it goes to, now it's the detail work time. The detail work is the most crucial, most important part of finishing jewelry, because if you don't do it correctly, you're gonna have this piece look not so nice, because you can't have eat extra the corners, and the prongs need to stay nice, and the inside carvings need to be shiny, and those are certain techniques and tools that you could use to get deep inside the corners. Certain wires, certain brushes, certain buffing, all these different elements come together just to have this beautiful finish on any of these pieces that we work on. So what I do is I follow. I don't let this piece go in the process without my provision. Is that the word? No. Looking over it, what was the word?
Provision is what you're looking over, right?
Provision.
Yeah. Okay, I guess I said it right. So I make sure this piece is done correctly. And so many times what happens is, in the process, the piece gets stuck. It doesn't want to finish correctly. What happens is, a lot of times from the casting, we get a lot of prosodies or cracks. Those need to be taken care of, not need to be worked on. Sometimes a piece, instead of taking 2 hours, it could take up to 7-8 hours. It gets so annoying, and we have to stay focused. We have to stay sharp when we're doing this work, because it gets really not so exciting. So we stay focused, we make sure all the process is done. We use laser machine to laser all these holes, close them, repolish. What happens is, sometimes it gets stuck through going through the jeweler, the polisher, through to me, checking, making sure all the stones are okay while the piece is going through all this work. So doing and finishing high quality job, it's relentless. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of determination, focus, also a lot of expertise. You need to have a lot of expert mind to be able to work on this piece, and then put all that time to finish it, because a lot of the work already has been done. We cannot go back that much, but we have to go forward and finish this piece high quality. So a lot of the times, some jobs are, you know, a little bit different. We have jobs that we finish organic look. We have high quality. We have like wire works and all this different kind of work that we do. So there are parts where need to be pre-polished, pre-prepared, and then you're going to continue doing over that. And so there are a lot of different things happening. It takes very, very long time for someone to understand and know how to do this, and not everyone's caught up for it either. You know, you have to have that kind of mindset to be able to really learn this and then do a really good job of this. Because after all, time is money, time is going by. You cannot spend so much time. In the end, there's no profit into it if you spend a lot of time to it. So you have to know how to go to the point really, really quickly and finish that piece correctly as possible. Before all this process, there's something happens. What happens is, like, before I get the gold into my hands and precious stones and diamonds into my hands, what happens is there are a lot of process happens before I even start working on this kind of pieces. What happens is, like, there are mines where people go and actually mine this gold and stones. And what happens is, like, they have a job to do. It goes through a bunch of steps where they have to dig into all these deep mines and mine these metals and precious stones and find all the good stuff. And the metal has to go through a lot of assaying and cleaning and processes to get the clean 24 karat gold out. And diamond, we have to know, it goes through labs where they can tell us all the qualities and everything. What like all these processes happens right before I even get hand on. So the value starts from there, right? Like, all these people spend time, money, effort. The value has already created before I even start working on it. Once I take this metal, raw metal and raw stones, everything, now gonna put a lot of time and effort and designing everything. So I'm gonna add to this value another value. So we're gonna that's why jewelry gets sometimes really expensive, because there's so much value going into it, and and then it's so precious. There's not a lot of it out there. That's why the value could go really high. And so, like, people pay for the value that it's been created throughout these processes that this piece is going through until it comes to your hand. When you're creating something valuable, and the process that goes into it is that those people that they work on these pieces, like me, I've put about 35 years to become who I am today, right? So I have a lot of friends, and I've seen them start. When I started, they became really good jewelers also in the market, like and I got employees where they have about and over 30 years of experience, each of them. So I trust their expertise too, because when you put 30 years, you see a lot of designs come and go, a lot of ideas come and go. Each design has its own way of making different tools, different techniques. So when you put that much time learning, working through this process, you become this machine like minded, where when you touch something, you know what to use, how to use it, and how to make it like really the best, because we're talking about fine jewelry. Fine jewelry, it takes a lot of time to make, because you have to have the eye for it and the mind for it, and you have to have the experience for it, and you have to have the little touch to it. So the thing is, not only the eye and mind, but like your body has to be solid, still working good, process, in a good, what is the word, like your body has to be working perfectly, like in a good shape,
Condition.
okay, condition. So your body has to be in a good condition, so you can be able to sit down 6-7 hours straight and then do that little tedious work to finish this amazing, beautiful piece. So that's why all these guys get paid good money, because what they do is very hard. What they do, it takes a long time to develop that kind of skill. So that's why sometimes things get really, like expensive, because there it gets really, a lot of people are getting paid really well to finish this one piece. So the value goes into this piece, and then those are the reasons and the ways this value getting created by, a lot of people working on this piece, that they have all these experiences and knowledge to do this kind of work. And it's not easy to bring these people in one place where you could have all of them doing their part. It's almost like playing a symphony of company, and everyone's playing their note really, really good. So end product looks amazing, stunning, and every time you get that result, by having all these guys sitting and doing what they're good at. So that's how value is created, and that's what it takes to create this value. So where I'm sitting, where I'm looking, where I'm looking at, it's I have a lot of responsibility. I have a lot of stress, a lot of like I have to think a lot, and I have to stay focused no matter how crazy it gets, because a lot of times it gets really, really intense. Some pieces not finishing, all these other pieces need to, they have a deadline they need to finish, and it gets really intense. And you have to be able to control yourself and have all these guys do their job, let them do their job, that kind of deal, because after all, they're professionals, they're good at what they do. You have to trust them, and then this is how we do this, and create all this value. Okay, so I'm moving on to how you should approach it. So what it takes, what kind of understanding it takes to approach to purchasing or to wearing a jewelry, how you should look at this. So I'm gonna kind of break down the little here, like few things for you guys to kind of have concept understanding what it, how you should approach it. So there are many ways of approaching for women. Let's say if you're going out dressed up nice, and you're going out for a dinner, for party, for some kind of that kind of place, you probably want to, or even wedding, you probably want to have a good idea how do you want to look that night. So what kind of jewelry you want to wear, like if you're going somewhere really important and you want to look good, you need some new jewelry. What you want to do is you want to ask yourself what are you wearing and where are you going. So if you want to be a little bit flashy, or you want to be less flashy, or you want to be modern, so there are different ways of approaching this. So if you want to be flashy in that matter, you probably want to wear some like diamond piece and white gold, bright, and even a necklace with white gold and beautiful dress or something like that. So if that's not what you want to do, if you want to still go that place but not be too showing off, you probably want to tone it down a little bit. You can have other options, like you can wear amethyst with diamonds around, and yellow gold, that it's not too showy off. Even the piece gets really big, it still doesn't have that like that jumps on you like that. You have many options. You could use yellow sapphires, you could use blue topaz, you could use many stones. but like you have a lot of option to do this, and you should know what to look for, what you're approaching, what are you going to use it for. For a wedding, you're probably wearing like a little bit sharp. You probably want to look for again, maybe you don't want to be too showy. You decide to put nice good sized diamonds on a yellow gold, where the diamond has the spark, where the yellow gold is not as bright as like a white gold could be. Or even you have option to go maybe like a pink gold, which is not showy either. The highest you want to push you could go is probably you want to use platinum with a big size diamonds and really really clean VVS diamonds to have that spark, to have that metal, deep color metal, which is that's what resides with platinum. That's how it portrays itself. And so approach is important. Other things you want to look for if you're giving a gift to someone. I've had a retail shop, so I understood this after 4 years of doing retail shop. I came up with these beautiful designs, lightweight, beautiful, large size, and had some diamonds on it. Not so clean diamond, but like was still good enough, and people loved it. People were just like, they come to me, I'll ask them what they need it for, and they said gift. I'll be like, here, this is the gift section. They would nonstop. I would sell those pieces because people really really like those. So you can look into that kind of stuff where you don't have to spend a ton of money, but it's like your money's gonna buy the most for you, value. And other things you can look for is spiritual and inspirational jewelry, which I make also, which is like if you're an athlete, if you're going to college, you need that drive, that's something to remind you, or any like you started a business and you feel like you always have to, like there's a challenge for you, you always have to push it up forward. Something like that would remind you. It's like a reminder because it's a precious gold or silver pieces, and you wear it and it will remind you, you hold it, you remember the words, like courage, one of the medallions. Find your pet, that's another one, and there's multiple. You could go to the website and look it up. So something like that will help you in that kind of manner, right? Like what you, depending where you are, what you're doing, you approach it in that manner to purchase your jewelry or to wear it. Other things, a lot of times, like it's a kids jewelry, it's a little bit different. It's a smaller version. It doesn't have to be diamond always. It could be CZ. So it's less. Kids are really rough with their jewelry. They don't understand, but they can have jewelry, and then you don't have to spend a lot of money. So you can look for that kind of pieces with a thin chain but strong one. There are a bunch of really strong thin chain in the marketplace that you could use so it doesn't break easy, because they don't have the coordination very very much, and you could use things like that. Also boyfriend, girlfriend, that kind of situation, friendship, you want to give us some kind of gift. Maybe you don't want to spend more than $100 to $200. There are a lot of jewelry out there that you could look for, like little small rings and very small color stones on it, or small diamond, and that kind of jewelry you can look to fulfill that desire to have that kind of jewelry, gift. Another thing to look for is like to look for beautiful boxes. There's a lot of boxes, like in Los Angeles downtown in a jewelry district, we have shops here, they sell boxes. They're very inexpensive. The most is like $10-12. You could buy boxes for like $3-4 and make when you give that gift, or like represent that jewelry, the perception is reality. Always you have something presenting like itself, like really nice, beautiful box that speaks of value, and you have to learn how to give value to your piece too. So make sure you find and look for things that you're going to use for. That's how you're going to approach doing this. Like also making special pieces, like you have to find really good jeweler where she knows what they're doing. You have to probably ask them a few things before, see what they have made for others, and kind of they should have some kind of portfolio that you can look into, see what they have made, what they're good at. If you want to make something particular, you're gonna kind of like keep your eye on looking if they have made such thing where you kind of have an idea that they're gonna make that piece for you looking like that. So make sure you do your due diligence and look into it and understand if that person gonna be able to do it. I've had a lot of clients told me that they spent a lot of money, they didn't get what they wanted, and that they were not satisfied. And years later, they always came and told me the story again. They probably use that story a lot. But it gets really rough, because not only you're putting cash money into it, now you're putting your time, your expectation, everything into it, and it could end up being not really pleasant experience. So you have to make sure, you have to find out all this before you approach making any kind of handmade jewelry piece. I personally like handmade jewelry piece because it comes out exactly what you want it to come out with, but it's just that you have to know someone, what they're doing. So one thing to ask if you're gonna ask questions is you could ask how long they've been doing this. And the next question should be like how long you're doing the same thing, because a lot of the time what happens is like in the marketplace, one guy is doing repair work for 30 years. He's only good at doing repair work. This guy been doing 30 years of 30 times the same thing over and over. Like someone like me, and I know other people also, but someone like me, what I did was like I got into repair, I got into handmade jewelry, I got into waxing, I got into manufacturing, I got into wholesaling, I got into retailing, I got into designing, which I'm in right now, and I use all these experiences to come up with the best version, best idea of what I'm about to make. And then I use all this knowledge to make sure this piece is gonna be the best that it could be for the client. And I'll ask them all these questions, and this is how I find out what I need to make. And then I just make it for them. And I have a very high success level, where everything that I make, it ends up to being exactly what the client was looking for. Why jewelry matters, why it matters to us, why it matters to do amazing, great jobs and like amazing designs and make this thing really good, and to put out all these beautiful pieces. Why it matters. So why it matters is because it's our reputation. Whatever we put out there, that's what's going to come back to us. So we believe in that here, and we make sure that that is getting done correctly. We don't let any piece leave the office if it's not done correctly. If it has any kind of micro mistakes, we will not let that piece go. If the piece did not finish correctly, we will not let it go out of the office. Basically, whatever leaves out of the office, most likely that we're not going to see that piece back, because we've done everything that needed to be done, needed to be made, and that is ready to go to the client or to the customer. Why it matters is because we care. we work with caring. We put our time and effort, and every step we take in order to finish this piece as correctly as possible, as satisfying as possible to the client. So that's why that's how we look at this kind of jewelry, because everything's made by hand. There is very few machinery here, but like the machines helping us to use our hands to work and finish these pieces. So most of our pieces, it matters to because we put a lot of handwork into it, in a lot of mind, and choosing stones and choosing what metal we're going to use, what kind of diamond quality we're going to use, because everything matters. In the end, certain pieces can be a lot of money, or it can be less money. It has to make sense. So all that, when we put out there for selling or for making for someone, it has to make sense, because we have to be able to put all the detail work on it, all the diamond, all the silver or gold, all the precious stones, and has to be affordable to the client. So that matters. And we kind of like sit down and try to determine if we have to do this piece high quality, sharp polish finish, or are we going to do organic way of finish, because certain designs, certain pieces, you want them to look in a certain way, and that matters also. And because end of the day, that piece has to go has to be get sold out there, or worked on, finished, so someone can wear it, enjoy it, and cherish it. That matters. Also, a lot of the time, these pieces that we do, the artwork and the designing work on it, it matters because it probably, those pieces gonna get bought with someone that want to keep it in the family, and then most likely hand it down into the lineage of that family, and the story will go with that piece down the line. That piece needs to be made really strong and really not dainty, and it has to be solid, because you don't want that piece to be breaking when you use it a few times, or even 100 times, so you want that piece to be solid. That matters, because if that piece is going down the lineage hundreds years later, someone's holding that piece, that needs to be solid, still intact. So that matters. We kind of like put our minds together in here, and we determine what are we making here. Is this something someone gonna wear it and have fun with it, or is this gonna be in the family for a very long time? All these things matters, and the price points matter, because what we're making has to make sense. We cannot go too crazy with it, and it has to make sense. Okay, so this is why jewelry matters to me and to us, and we are here to be serving. We are in a service business also, because we make things, we get orders in, and this is what it matters to us, and we are the expert here of jewelry. And we would love to hear your feedback. If you guys have any comments and anything that you want to share with us, please leave comment down below. We would love to hear your feedback and read your comments. And follow us on social media, on YouTube, on all platforms, Kabartsy. We would love to see you guys and hear from you guys, DMs, everything above, and do the likes. We appreciate all that. I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.